I wanted to start by following up on our surfactant talk briefly.
Yes,
You actually did watch the video. I'm
I
sorry,
did.
but you
I
did watch
did.
the video.
I did, and you did a really good job. I have to give you kudos on how you put that together and wait. So good job, sir,
It was as
for that.
scientific as I could make it happen.
No, it was
So
super. No, it was. It was. I was like, wow, he's like taking this super seriously right now because this is like serious scientific work we're
I
doing here.
am. I am taking this seriously. But here's the before I give the audience and yourself kind of these are not my final results because I think this is going to be an longer term process.
Okay.
But before I give kind of my real feelings about what I heard, said, and did, what did you hear? Did you hear a big difference between my old fashioned distilled water and rubbing alcohol mix versus the addition of surfactant?
Not really, maybe a little bit, but I kind of put a lot of that to okay, it might be because I'm hearing it through compression through YouTube. You know, you're recording it and then you're encoding it and then YouTube's re-encoding it. So I'm like, maybe it sounds better in real life, but I didn't hear a huge difference.
Nope.
Maybe a 1% different, maybe
I'm with the addition
if you
of
want
the
me to put a
benefit of what
percentage on it.
with the addition of the benefit of what you said about me being able to hear it as actual wave files with headphones and things, I
Right.
would say the difference is maybe more 5%.
Okay. All right.
But it was there, but only in a few specific cases that I could really call out. And then in general, it was just a very minor lift in overall cleanliness and sound. So it wasn't that there was nothing, but there was only a few points. There was one specific point in that Flash Beagle record of all things. And then there was one specific point or two specific points in the opera record. That opera record in particular was the one that in my headphones between the unclean version and my clean first clean was
Uh-huh.
dramatic. And between
That's
the
the one that
first
I
clean and the second clean was dramatic. Specifically in a few areas where the enunciation of the opera singer actually started showing up in the wave file in a way that had not existed in the version. It was small, it was minor, but you
right.
heard the difference of the way he actually closed a T or something like that that didn't exist in the recording prior to it. So
Okay.
that
Okay.
one and then one area of Flash Beagle in particular was enough to get me to go, okay, so we're just going to do this now. My big question though is the problem, if there's a problem, because ultimately I think the good news is my old fashioned cleaner does wonders and it's
Right.
easy and everyone should be doing it and most people do anyway. So hey, what you're
Yeah.
doing is probably fine, I think, is the end result here. But
Keep
if you
doing
do
what you're
want to go
doing.
that extra step, is the problem simply that I'm still using a rag and wipe method? Ultimately, is the surfactant able to get in clean, but not really do much difference because I'm using a rag as opposed to, say, like an ultrasonic solution? So is the answer maybe use surfactant for sure, it'll make a big difference if you are using an ultrasonic? Or if you're the majority that still just use wipes and rags and things like that, should you just not bother?
I mean, if you look at the science behind the whole surfactant, if you really dig into it, which I have, and it's kind of boring to be honest, but I have looked at the science of a surfactant, and you are going to get better results if you're using like an ultrasonic type machine or like a degritter or something like that. Some machine that is going to get your water swirling and have your record going in the water as it's swirling. The surfactant is going to help that water get into those grooves better than probably what you can do just doing it by hand.
Yeah.
So I would probably say if you're using a machine, definitely use the surfactant 100%. Um, I think you're still getting results out of it, even just doing it by hand. but I think you're going to get a better result if you use a machine. I'll put it that way.
Here was my other ultra nerdy thought about this, though, and a topic that really is an ultra nerdy topic that I need to do because of kind of my obsession and passion, and that is, so if I need to clean surfactant cleaner with a second distilled water plain washdown, a rinse, then how can the rinse get into the grooves of the record to clean out the surfactant that gets inside of it?
Oh my God, I never thought about that. You just blew my mind with that. Oh my God, I know. Yeah, I don't know, but see, everything I've read and watched, they say if you use surfactant, you need to do a rinse too. And that I never thought of it, but how does that work?
So I posited this to my son, and I think he came up with a decent solution, which is that maybe any remaining surfactant would bond on its way across, right? Because it'll be in there. So perhaps the surfactant will be able to get reached by the distilled water because it's surfactant. And so as you're wiping the distilled water across, perhaps you're able to pick up the surfactant on the way across.
That would make sense.
It's a good theory. It's a really good theory.
Yeah, no, it is. That's a very solid theory.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how would you actually go about proving that?
I am unlikely to be getting an ultrasonic anytime soon. I can't afford it. And I don't know even really how much I feel I want to add that to my... I've been using a cleaning cloth with rubbing alcohol and stuff just fine for many decades, and I think I'm okay with it, honestly.
Ultrasonic is a whole other rabbit hole you don't want to go down. It's like, no, it's a whole thing.
But when it comes to cleaning cloths, even with ultrasonic, you need cleaning cloths. So what do you actually recommend people use? And how often should you be changing it out? And can you actually wash these things? They say you can, but should you? Does that ever work the same again?
I don't think it does. I tried at one time to redo mine, and I just don't think they're the same afterwards. So I treat them as not one use. I mean, I use them. I switch mine out about maybe every 20 records, maybe, unless I'm doing some like really dirty records. Like if I would go to like Goodwill and something like that, and happen to get like a really nasty record, I will give that a pre-clean, and then I'll do the ultrasonic clean, and then I'll clean it off then with the cloth. And then if like that record was super dirty to begin with, I just get rid of that cloth. I don't even think about it.
So how many cloths are you going through, and where are you getting them from?
I like this is the weirdest thing. I just use a microfiber cloth, and I buy mine we have here, I am from Indiana, and we have a hardware chain called Menards. It's kind of like a Lowe's.
Save big money at Menards.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that.
Yeah.
Save more on home decorating at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
As an old Minnesota boy. Yeah.
I get mine at there because I get like 100 of them for like $10.
Oh.
They have like this. Yeah, they have like this huge bag of them, and they're like, sometimes they have them on sale cheaper than that, but it's like $10 or $11 for like 100 of them. So I just buy them from there and then use them, and then
that's amazing. That's really good.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, there's lots of people within the viewing of this from the United States, Upper Midwest, and stuff who are familiar with their local Menards. Maybe go check that out for record cloths. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Or go to like Lowe's. I'm sure Lowe's is another big chain. They would probably have them. What's the other one? I can't think of the. Why can I not think of the other big hardware chain? Yeah, Home Depot. Thank you. That I couldn't think of what that was. I'm sure they would have microfiber cloths in there too. That's where I buy mine. That's just because like it's like the cheapest. And like I said, every once in a while they put them even cheaper than that.
I've been doing the 5-packs from Amazon for record cleaning and stuff. I mean, you pay like, I don't know, maybe between $7 and $12 or so per 5-pack.
Right.
And if I'm having to go burn through those every couple of weeks, at most.
But I'm
or at
telling you,
least.
don't it's
Yeah.
a weird place to think about getting something for records, but don't overlook your like little home improvement store.
Especially with the addition of surfactant and the rinse, I'm going through
Yep.
like 4 or 5 of those little micro cloths
Oh, yeah.
every record because you got 2 sides, right? And so it's just
Right.
like,
Oh yeah.
that's a lot. And so I tend to
Yeah.
just kind of let them dry, but then they get probably too dirty.
And then I
Yeah.
haven't really looked. I'm sure like a Walmart or a Target might sell them too. I haven't really looked at anything like that. Like I said, I just get them at Menards. So
Wow, what a
shout out
great
to
tip.
Menards if you're a Midwest person, because that's a Midwest chain.
I want to talk about what's new in the world of records itself, because there's some amazing new releases that are either coming out in the near future or happening right now. And I want to get those up on the screen, and let's talk a little bit about it. Before they were cool, because they haven't been released
There you
yet.
go.
So there we go. Okay, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think the biggest one I would say try to get a pre-order in for this now is there was a band that was a super group called Mad Season. It was Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam kind of smooshed together, and their one and only album they have out is getting repressed. And that's coming out. So that is one that you need to look for. And it's like a limited release of only 1,000. So if you can pre-order that from your record store, do that now if they can pre-order it. I have one pre-ordered. I also have there was a version of it that came out several years ago that I do have, but this is a 2-record set that should sound amazing because they made it out to 2 albums. So that's a big one I would look for. And that's Mad Season Above is what that's called. And then the other big one, which is totally opposite genre, but Tracy Chapman's debut album is actually coming out, getting repressed, which that has not been in press forever. And OG copies of that go into like the 3-figure range.
Yep.
So that's another one that you should try to get, because that's just a great, amazing album. And of course, that's the one that's got Fast Car on it. Everybody should know the Fast Car song, but there is a bunch of other good songs.
It's smart to repress it with the country thing kind of happening.
Yep.
So
Yep. I can see why they did it.
Yep.
Those are just the 2 off the top of my head.
There is a bunch of In Excess stuff being reissued by Rhino Records. And this is new vinyl, so it's going to sound really good. You can get In Excess stuff not that expensive on the original vinyl, in worn condition, however. So having these really nice new versions could be really good. And there's 3 in particular. I'm going to have to drop the thing because I can't get it to scroll.
As a side note, while you're doing that, Rhino is killing it here lately with the represses that they're doing.
They are. I agree.
Rhino is doing
1000%.
some good stuff. 100, yeah. Like, don't like you wouldn't think, right? But and then a lot of the stuff they're doing too is really good, like audio file quality stuff too. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Which is not something you would think from Rhino.
But there's 3 albums in particular. Listen Like Thieves, The Swing, and in my opinion, most importantly, Shabu Shaba have all got brand new represses available right now through Rhino Records for $25 each. And that's a great price for a brand new vinyl of these. There was right before they exploded to worldwide popularity, although they themselves were all popular albums too. They just were a different level of popularity. And Shabu Shuba in particular is probably my favorite In Excess album. So the fact that you can get a great pressing of that right now for $25 is amazing.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yes, the second one, I need to get you a link somewhere. Maybe I can put it in Discord chat here. When we talked about our top 5 favorite albums, my number 2 is Moon Madness by Camel. And it is getting a not vinyl, but 2 CD and 5.1 Blu-ray remastered box set in April. And you can get that for only £28. It was like $35 or something like that. But that is super cheap for a high quality, like mega mix 5.1 full, 24-bit 96 whatever audio and everything.
Right.
Plus the new copy of the CD remastered, along with a bonus disc of extras and live stuff, and that is absolutely fantastic.
It's interesting that they're doing the 5.1 surround mix of that, though. That's super, because you wouldn't think something like that would.
Oh, this album is going to be fantastic in 5.1. Right. If you know the album, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. But yes, doing that work would be a lot of work, and it sounds like by this person named Stephen Taylor, I guess, who's the current audio archivist or whatever for Camel's work, but still, yes.
I mean, the name doesn't sound familiar to me, but
yeah, I am. I love my high quality audio, and we already discussed I love 5.1 audio. So to have my second favorite album of all time get a 5.1 Blu-ray mix, I just squealed when I got this news and immediately purchased as soon as I could.
I mean, that's what I was going to ask. And how long did it take you to pre-order that?
Yeah. But see, here's the fun part. That's not even all. There is one more I want to call out that I'm doing this. And I mentioned my number. Well, I can't remember which number it made now. Samandi.
Oh, yeah.
Samandi has released a new album as a band for the first time in decades. It's amazing. It's available on vinyl cheap, and as part of it, they've reissued all their original stuff on vinyl as well. So it's like the glorious moment of gloriousness for anyone who is a Samandi fan. You can support the band right now financially by purchasing these records and get amazing high quality records there. And I've dropped the website for Samandi Official, and it's so good. It's so good. Oh, it's so wonderful when a band like this can come back together with whatever members are left, find amazing musicians. I don't really know the full history of the band members of Samandi, but I know this new album sounds fantastic. And to have that plus the old stuff on vinyl through their website, supporting the band, it's just so good. So.
And that's the best way. Like, if you want to support the artist you love, order directly through their website. If you can, because they'll get. I'm not saying they don't get support if you order it in other ways, but I think to go straight to their website and order it, that really supports the band. So I always try to do that when I can. So.
All right, I had to get that off my chest, but I am so excited. You can see though between that and I've got a pre-order on the 70th Godzilla from Mondo that's coming out. I've got a couple other things that are happening.
It's a good time to be a record collector right now, just with everything that's coming out.
So why do I need Record Store Day? At one point, we were maybe going to have a guest on the show and have a deeper discussion about Record Store Day, but the only reason I wanted to leave that topic up here is, did you have any thoughts about the most recent upcoming one? I saw the list for this upcoming Record Store Day, and it felt more than ever like a bunch of DVD extras or something to me, you know?
Oh, I have lots of thoughts, and I will have more thoughts when we have our guest on too, but yeah. Short story is, there's way too much live stuff. Way too much live stuff this time around. And there wasn't really, like, usually with Record Store Day, there's like one or two titles, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to go at 5 a.m. I got to go get in line because there's only 2,000 of these being pressed. I got to have this. There's really nothing like that this year because most of it is live. And I'm like, why all this live stuff. I don't know.
Or lots of kind of bonus tracks and kind of periphery
Right.
tracks and things like that. And it's not to
Right.
say that that's bad, but
Right. No,
I'm
I'm
just
not. I
not
mean,
that interested, especially
No.
with a glut, frankly, of really amazing new great
Oh, yeah.
records that have come out.
Oh yeah, we'll talk more about this subject. We're going to have an actual record store owner on. We were going to do it this week, but just schedules didn't work out. But next time we record, we're going to have a record store owner on, and we're going to have a record store discussion.
It's possible we could be filling some comment sections with this one. I have to tell you, my
we
views
might.
on Record Store Day are mixed and slightly controversial, perhaps. So, yeah.
I am a little 50-50 on it. It's
I'm not
I
a
don't know.
hater. I'm not a hater, just for the record.
Oh yeah,
I'm not
no,
a hater.
I'm not either. I just
But I also think it sucks.
My biggest problem with Record Store Day is a lot of the stuff they do, let's just be honest, it's a cash grab.
Yeah.
It's a big cash grab. And comment down below and tell me how horrible of a person I am, but I'm sorry, that's just how it is.
That said, we're also in the future going to be having a topic of our best Record Store Day records, and that's a pretty hot list, to be honest, because there is some amazing stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned Record Store Day because my what's new is from Record Store Day, actually. It was from Record Store Day, this Black Friday one. I didn't get a chance to get it in the record store. And it was kind of one of those that came out, was a limited edition release. Flippers got a hold of it. Prices were crazy online for it. And I'm like, well, I want it, but I'm never going to get it. I had it added to my list on my want list on Discogs, popped up and it said, hey, seller just listed this record on Discogs. And it was like in a price where I was like, okay, that's not flipper prices. That's a little bit over what retail was, but not horrible. So I'm like, I'll pull the trigger on it. So I got a hold of Olympus Awaits, and it's from a band called Malfunction.
My guitar sticks it in. Doctor, please, I'm sick again. Ooh, baby. Mama Eagle comes and takes me home, yeah.
This is Andy Woods, or Andrew Woods, I should say, first band, who after this was him and his brother and a friend. So this is like a proto-grunge punk band. And then when they broke up, Andrew Wood went on to form Mother Love Bone. And of course, Mother Love Bone had Pearl Jam. It was basically Pearl Jam minus Eddie Vedder was who Mother Love Bone is. And then unfortunately he passed away. And then Pearl Jam was formed, but this kind of has a Pearl Jam connection, but this is just like, if you're into like early Seattle music, this is like grungy, poppy, punky. It's kind of hard to explain.
Wow.
And Andy Wood was just a amazing singer. He was a lot of people compare him to, and I know this is kind of controversial, but a lot of people compare him to Queen and
Freddie Mercury.
Thank you. Yes, a lot of people compare him to Freddie Mercury just because he's very charismatic, very, very entertaining. Like, you think of a lead singer, you think of Andy Wood. And that was him. So I was happy to get that. And I'm just going to give a little plug to the seller that I bought this from, because he's actually on YouTube. He is part of the vinyl community. He has a lot of YouTube videos. He has a great channel. His channel is called Concert Buddy. And I didn't even realize it was from him until I got a message that he said, hey, I'm going to get ready to send this. Just wanted to ask you if you wanted me to open this up and put the record outside, which
nice.
I did because, yeah. And then I'm like, okay, this guy really knows what he's. And then I looked at the username, and I'm like, wait a minute, do you have a YouTube channel? So yeah, so then we started talking a little bit, and we've been talking back and forth. But so shout out to Concert Buddy for actually picking that up on Record Store Day apparently, and then putting it my way at a decent price on Discogs. So thank you.
Wow. And also, how is it that we, the second here, let me open this up. How is it that we managed to unintentionally segue each other so well, so frequently in this section of the show? Because speaking of records that should have shipped outside of
Oh, yep.
the package, My What's New, let me get my camera back. There we go. All right. My What's New is an amazing record that I ordered direct from France. It's the Atari Recharged soundtrack. The Atari Recharged is a series of games that have been released by Atari over the past, I don't know, 7 or so years, 5 or so years, really. And the music is by Megan McDuffie, who is a well-known video game soundtrack composer, did River City, one of the River City games and things like that. But you look at this record, it's beautiful. I've got the thing still in it, I guess, but it's amazing.
Right.
You can see it's got the full track list, and then I'm a big Atari nerd, and these records themselves come in different colors. They've got the logos on them, and
that's
they've
amazing.
got
They put the logo there.
Yeah. So, because my Atari 50th soundtrack just mysteriously didn't get shipped for like 6 months after release by Light in the Attic, which is a generally well-regarded record store, but whatever reason, they just never shipped it until like literally 6 months after release. I was like, well, since this one's going to sell out immediately, I am going all the way to the Microids website in France, and even though I don't read French, I'm going to figure out how to place an order and make them ship it to me all the way from France. And so I did, and so that's why I have it, and it is sold out immediately, and it's really hard to get, and it's going to be a great collector's item, and mine's got a punch through because it was shipped all the way from France. So I guess I'm not going to send it back because they did ship it all the way from France. But that said, it's a real bummer. And that problem is resolved if you ship the records outside of the jacket. This is going to be a big one. When you think of vinyl records, there's a number of genres that come immediately to mind, but classic rock has got to be up towards the top of the list.
Oh yeah, 100%. And this was tough for me too.
Yeah, this was super tough.
This I think so far out of all the top fives we've done, this has been my hardest one, I think.
Can I ask you an organizational genre sorting question, which is, what do you count as classic rock?
See, that's, to me, classic rock is like 60s, 70s. That's what I consider classic rock. Maybe some 80s, maybe like early 80s. But 60s and 70s are like what I consider to be classic rock.
So like Pearl Jam and Nirvana.
Not well, see, but it's funny you say that. I was flipping around on the radio the other day on the local classic rock station, and they were playing Nirvana, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yep. Well, the definition has changed, man. The definition has changed.
I'm like, you're telling me a record I went to the record store and bought the day it came out is a classic rock record? No. And they played like Guns N' Roses too, like something off of Appetite for Destruction. And I'm
Yep.
like, no. It's not classic rock, bro. Not classic
I
rock.
too played it pretty classic rock for
Yeah,
my top 5 classic rock, which is what
I
we're
went
about to get
with-
into here. So
60s, 70s for mine.
this is a big topic, though, and this is one of those
It
that
is.
going to take you a lot of thinking about what you want to do
Oh,
for
it
these
did.
things. So yeah,
It did. And I have to take some umbrage with you because you stole 2 of mine.
oh, did I?
I didn't want to cross over with you, so I had to pick something else. But yes, you did. Two of your picks should have been on my 5, but you had your list up first before I had mine together. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to cross over, so I'll pick something else. So yeah.
What's funny about the top 5 classic rock records is I tend to organize by pop rock and then classic rock. And to me,
Okay.
classic rock tends to be somewhere in the range of about 65 to 80, which, with a few exceptions there. Like,
Yeah,
for
that's-
those bands who released albums afterwards, they fit in fine too.
I
and
would
me
agree with
personally,
you.
I keep my Zappa collection in classic rock, as opposed to
I
any
could
other kind of
see
thing.
that,
Because
yeah,
I had to
no.
figure out where am I going to stick this many records. And
Right.
so classic rock is where my Zappa goes. If it sounds good coming out of the 8-track of your 1985 Chevette, it belongs on
There
this
you go.
list.
Meet the versatile 1985 Chevette. Standard comfort and convenience features include cut pile carpeting, handy map pockets, and an AM radio.
There you go, exactly. I'm going to start with my number 5. And this is an album that I will die on the hill of. I'm going to die on the hill and say this is the best debut album that has ever been put out, ever. And I want anybody to fight me in the comments on that.
Ooh.
Because I will die on this hill. And it is Boston.
I woke up this morning and the sun was gone. Turned on some music to start my day. And lost myself in a familiar song. I closed my eyes and I slipped
The self-titled debut album from Boston, and this is like the Walmart exclusive repress. It's on this blue, but whatever. This album, just amazing. Like I said, I will die on the hill. This is the best debut album ever from any band, any genre, any band. Tell me another debut album better than this Boston. I mean, it's got Foreplay, Long Time. It's got what is all on here? More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, Foreplay, Long Time, Rock and Roll Band, Smoking, Hitching a Ride, Something About You, and Let Me Take You Home Tonight. The whole album, like, there's no clunkers on this album. So if you can name me a better debut album, do it.
You're
But-
killing me, man. You're killing me. I don't want to interrupt you. Also, I love that record. I love that
Yeah.
record. I'm not
Oh, yeah.
trying to actually dispute your claim, other
Right.
than to say I don't think that's true. I bet I could come up with a list of albums that are debut albums that are
Okay.
as good. Let me just say as good.
I
'Cause I'm
mean-
not trying to say better, because I think that is an
Right.
excellent debut album for sure. But I think there's equal. And I would actually, let me just off the top of my head say Supertramp's debut. I'm going to put that one on there.
I mean,
honestly.
maybe that's a top 5 we should do.
Yeah, yeah.
Debut albums, but yeah, like I said, I will die on the hill and say that's got to be.
It's a real.
If it's
quality.
not the best,
yeah.
it's up there. Yeah,
Because Samandia is their
it's-
debut album.
yeah, it's just one of those rare albums where there's nothing bad on that album. Like every song on there is just. Now, of course, you know they weren't all released as singles, so they all weren't quote unquote hits. But there's nothing bad on that album. It's such a good album, and that pressing sounds really good too. But
Cool.
So there you go. My number 5, self-titled from Boston.
My number 5 is one of those that I treat with kid gloves, and this is my good pressing of Rolling Stones' Sticky Fingers with the zipper that still has most of its shrink wrap in it. And I'm going to open it up actually for this show here today. But
For those keeping track at home,
yeah,
this is one that would have been on my top 5, but
it's an
had it on
amazing,
yours.
it's an amazing album. And just for the record, the reason I got this little cotton here is because if you put this in your record collection with that metal zipper there, it will damage whatever it's next to. So instead, I just use a little piece of cotton, and that largely seems to take care of it. But this is
I
a
see
really
it in record
wonderful
stores all
pressing
the time.
of, in my opinion, one of the greatest classic rock albums of all time.
Yeah, you got satin shoes. Yeah, you got nasty boots.
I don't even know. It's what the Muscle Shoals
Oh,
recording
100%.
studio and everything. It's just it's
Yep.
got songs like Wild Horses, Can't You Hear Me Knocking, You Gotta Move, Sister Morphine, Dead Flowers, Moonlight Mile, Sway. I mean, and the list goes on. This
Oh,
does
yeah,
have
just-
Brown Sugar on it, which is these days somewhat of a more controversial. There's people who are like, wait a second, what's that song about? That kind of thing. But still, classic song as well, and classic album for sure.
Such a
by
good
the
album.
Rolling
I agree.
Stones.
I agree.
Yep.
Wild Horses is probably one of my. It's in my top 5 favorite classic rock songs ever. So good pick. Yeah, like I said, that one would have been on my list, but since you had it, I was just like, oh, I guess I can't use that because I didn't want to do a crossover. So
It's so classic in terms of classic rock that it was almost too easy a pick. It's been used. I mean, some of the guitar hooks have been used to basically define what rock is.
right. So my number 4 is going to be a band we just mentioned, and that's going to be Supertramp, and this is A Breakfast in America.
And they send me away to teach me how to be sensible, logical, oh, responsible, practical. And then they show me a world where I could be so dependable, oh, clinical, oh, intellectual, cynical.
This is a later repress. I don't have an OG of this, but yeah, this is another one of those albums where you look at the track list and you're just like, okay, great song. We got The Logical Song, Goodbye Stranger, Breakfast in America, Take the Long Way Home. Like, I mean, come on. I mean, yeah, there's some songs on here that aren't that great. Like, what is it? Just Another Nervous Wreck. I mean, it's okay, but
All Supertramp albums are good. Honestly, I don't think there's a bad Supertramp album. There's some I like more than others. I like that one only a little less than some of the others, only because that one is a little more commercial. It was more of a big commercial success than some of the others, and so it maybe leans a little heavier into the pop side. But
it was between that and Crime of the Century. I was like kind of tossing those up, and I actually listened to them both, and then I kind of gave the edge to Breakfast in America because I just thought, okay, I'm kind of digging this album a little more. Not to say Crime of the Century is bad, like we said. Like Supertramp is an amazing band, but it's just I kind of gave the edge to that. So
yeah, a perfectly great choice. We're talking classic rock. Don't get much more classic than that. So.
Right, exactly.
Unless maybe you're talking about my number 4, Doors' Strange Days, which, predates Breakfast in America by quite a bit, and was arguably one of the most famous classic rock albums of all time, and still to this day has sort of a sound and vibe that is largely unemulated and unmatched. I put
That's
this
true.
one out over the others, in particular because of the closing song, "When the Music's Over," which is probably among the wildest that the Doors got, and is just an epic of a song that very few bands could ever pull off, and that's kind of what I mean in terms of this album.
I would put, I mean, not that's a bad album. That is a great choice. But I would put LA Woman over Strange Days. I like LA Woman just a little better, but then again, you're just talking about the Doors, this classic, a classic rock band, right? So, great pick.
Let me do a little bit of a Zappa impression, which is to say, what track doesn't know is I spent hours debating between whether it should be LA Woman and Strange Days. Yeah.
Did you? Well, see, there you go.
Indeed.
See,
yeah,
we're on the same
hours.
wavelength.
I struggled, man. The struggle was real, but ultimately, Strange Days came first, and Jim Morrison was in better shape for the recording of Strange Days, and so those are the two reasons why I put that one.
What are we on? Number 3? I am going with Meatloaf and Bat Out of Hell.
When the night is over, like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone, gone, gone. Like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes. But when the day is done and the sun goes down and the moonlight shining through, like a sinner.
Not too many bad songs on this album. About a 3A bad. Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. This is a Target exclusive pressing, so it's on this red marble. I do have an OG of this as well. I just, for some reason, grabbed this.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you can find originals of that. Maybe in not the greatest shape, but real cheap.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But took the words right out of my mouth. That's another great song out of here, but it's just that classic Meatloaf Jim Steinman connection where Meatloaf is singing all of the epic Jim Steinman songs, and this is like a rock opera, if you will, little bit, because you know how Steinman's music is very, very epic and very opera-ish, and so just a great album. Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell, my number 3.
Not everyone's going to agree on everything in terms of classic rock. I think especially in classic rock, you can get some polarized opinions.
That's true.
I kind of can't stand Meatloaf.
I was lucky enough to see him in concert, and he did put on a heck of a show. The whole, from start to end, he was concentrated on what he was doing. And it was like an epic event the whole way through. So, but yeah, Meatloaf is one of those very polarizing acts. There's it's like you either love the guy or you hate the guy. It's like there's no.
And to be fair, I fully understand that there are plenty of bands I love that other people would say the exact same thing about. I totally get it.
Well,
It's fine. So
yeah, no, it is. So yeah.
I think what pretty much everyone can agree on here is my number 3, which is Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. I don't know too many people who have really heard this album who can't appreciate it in some way, shape, or form. My copy is all ring-worn and what have you, but it's 1970s pressing, and I paid, what did I pay? Where can I get this? I can't. Anyway, I paid $8 for this. I think Dark Side of the Moon we'll probably end up having a whole episode someday about Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, yeah.
But me
Easily we
personally,
could.
I've heard so much Pink Floyd and I've heard so many albums, and for me, Wish You Were Here is the one that I still pull out sometimes and enjoy because of its guitar solos and songwriting and production and everything else.
That's the other one that would have been on my list. So that's my favorite Floyd album, hands down. So yeah, such a good album.
I don't want to be a negative Nancy on this episode, but let me bring up this because this is a great point. I love Pink Floyd. I mean, they're one of the greatest bands of all time, unquestioned. Whatever, it's all good.
Hands down. Yeah.
Do I ever want to hear Pink Floyd again? I honestly don't know that the answer is yes that much, only because how many times do I need to listen to Dark Side of the Moon ever again? How many times do I need to listen to Wish You Were Here again? I honestly don't know, you know?
They are one of the, and that's kind of the curse of like these classic rock bands. Some of these bands get played to death. If you listen to any classic rock radio, be it terrestrial, be it on Sirius, you're gonna hear the same songs by these bands over and over and over and over, and then you're like, really? Like,
I can hit play in my head and just play Wish You Were Here at this point, pretty
right.
much.
Oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's funny to say that though. But Wish You Were Here is one of those albums I'll play probably about once a month though. I will often just like, especially if I'm doing something around the house, like I'm cleaning or whatever, I'll just throw that on, and then it's just like, and then I just every once in a while I'll stop and I'll be like, God, this is so good. You know, it's like.
To go a little deep, I feel that Wish You Were Here is really the album where Roger Waters took control, and not in a good way. But I also think it's Pink Floyd at its funkiest. Because the latter part of Shine On You Crazy Diamond is almost downright funky for Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah,
so
it is. Yeah,
I dig it. I dig it.
Yeah. Great choice. Like I said, that would have been on my list, but I didn't want to have a crossover, so... So in its place, because that actually would have been number 2 for me, in place of that, I put the Jimi Hendrix Experience and their first album, Are You Experienced? I mean, what do you have to say about Jimi Hendrix? I mean, there's really nothing I can say that hasn't been said about Hendrix. This is a later repress, because originals of this, they're not like bad priced, but they're just beat to crap.
Right,
I have yet to.
right.
I would love to find an OG of this, but I haven't found one that has been in decent enough quality to actually buy. They're just always beat up because this is this was 60, 68, 67, I think, something like that. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, it's so hard to find OGs of this that aren't beat up, but
yeah,
I love Hendrix. Like, then again, hands down, if we ever do a list of top 5 guitarists, he's going to be hard pressed not to be number 1. I don't think, you know.
I think we should do a list where we have to come together and make a list.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Because that'll be tough, but that'll be fun. Because we're gonna have have opinions, I'm sure. So
yeah, we will.
Speaking of records that are in bad shape, but I purchased it anyway because the record's in good shape, my number 2 is certainly one of the most classic rock albums of all time, and that is Santana Abraxas. So this album is not in the greatest shape. You can see there's just a lot of kind of wear on it, but the vinyl record itself sounds really good. And this is an original 1970 Santa Maria pressing
Oh wow.
of this particular
Nice.
album, which is an excellent
That
version
actually
of this album.
doesn't look
So-
that bad. I mean that.
No,
that
the
cover
record
doesn't look
itself
that
is in
bad,
great
actually.
shape.
Yeah.
It does have a
Yeah.
little bit of kind of wear and tear on it, but it plays.
But I mean,
very
for an
well.
OG copy, yeah.
Let's take it apart from the
is-
vinyl and talk about the music, though. The music of Santana Abraxas is otherworldly, out of this world, angelic, virtuosic, virtue, however you say that, full of virtuosity. Incredible musicianship, incredible songwriting, and the feelings and emotions. It arguably changed rock music forever.
Oh yeah.
And it's fantastic.
And that is one that sadly I can say I do not own. I need to pick up a copy of that. Wait, that's like one of those I was kind of ashamed when I saw your list and I'm like, why did I not own a copy of that on vinyl? I have a CD copy of it, but I don't own it on vinyl, and I'm like, how do I not own that on vinyl? What am I doing with my collecting life and not own that on vinyl?
Well,
So
thankfully you can find original pressings like the
Oh, yeah.
Hendrix relatively cheap, getting more expensive by the month here, but still
Yeah.
relatively cheap. And it's great guitar playing. It's one of the most best classic rock guitar playing you'll hear. It's really good stuff. It also, I really like how, because it was such a big commercial success, it allowed, I think, the record industry at that time to invite a lot more people in and take chances on a lot more musical acts. Similar to Miles Davis' Bitches Brew had a similar effect where it allowed other people
Yeah.
to get released that never would have been probably even under consideration prior. So its impact on rock music as a whole is also really intense.
then again, in the conversation for the best guitarist, Santana's got to be in that conversation too. Number one for me is going to be, I was probably maybe 9 or 10 the first time I heard this album, and I was just like, okay, I don't know what I just listened to, but I want to hear more of that. And that is Black Sabbath, the self-titled debut.
What is this that stands before me?
Nice.
I'm like, the first time I heard this, I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is, but when the blood, like first, like you put the needle down on this, you hear the rain, and then you hear the doomy just guitar work, and then the scream of Ozzy, and then you're just like, oh my god, like I'm in another world now. So yeah, easily my number one. This album brought metal. Like, this was heavy metal before even anybody even knew what heavy metal was, and it was doom metal before doom metal existed. And it's just like, it is so doomy and so just heavy, and it's like such sludge and such, and like you said, you just feel like everything is coming from like the depths of hell, and you're like, oh my god, what is going on? Help me, I need help because I'm not going to survive this. It's just, yeah. So just picture 10-year-old me just getting my mind blown by that, and I was like, okay, that I think got me into metal, and why I'm still a metalhead to this day was I can quote unquote blame that on Black Sabbath.
I love your number one pick, but I disagree with it because my number one pick is the album of theirs I like better. That would be Black Sabbath Paranoid.
Going home late last night. Suddenly I got a fright. Yeah, I looked through a window and surprised what I saw. Fairy boots and dancing with all the dwarfs. Right now.
I love the original debut
Again.
album of Black Sabbath, but Paranoid, man. Paranoid
Again,
is just...
it was
yeah.
I had to do an A/B. I put them both on, and I'm like, I'm gonna give a little bit slight edge just because I think of the reaction I remembered getting the first time I heard it. I think that's why it gave me the edge. But Paranoid, not a bad pick at all. Like Paranoid, amazing album on its own too.
A much bigger... They all sold millions and millions at this point, but
Oh, yeah.
Black Sabbath Paranoid was the much more commercially successful record. It's the one that cemented their career. What I like about this, though, is either way we're saying Black Sabbath is the best classic rock band. Is that what we're saying? I think we're saying that.
I think that is what we're saying, and I don't think that we're wrong in that aspect. Either one of those albums, we're not wrong with saying that is the best classic rock albums of all time, right there.
Fuck the Beatles.
You know how you were controversial before? Not a big Beatles fan.
I actually love the Beatles too. I'm purely joking there. But look at our number one though. It's Black Sabbath.
Right.
We didn't.
Right.
I put Rolling Stones in, but
Right.
we don't have any Beatles in there. There's a whole bunch of
And-
stuff we don't have in there. You know.
I shocked myself I didn't put any Led Zeppelin on this list too.
Ooh, you're
because
right.
I think should Zeppelin be on this list?
Probably.
Absolutely. But actually, what I should have done instead of my Meatloaf, I should have had a Zeppelin album. I think.
I'll get behind that.
Probably,
put Led Zeppelin 2 on there. Put Led Zeppelin
Yep.
2 on your your Meatloaf.
Yep. Yep. Black Sabbath, the best classic rock band of all time. We've determined that on this episode.
Records are for listening, but they're also for looking at. And one of the
Oh,
greatest things
100%.
about records is the fact you got big old record covers. And people buy records because of the covers.
You got that 12 by 12 art to look at. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You can frame it, you can look at it, piece of art, you can also listen to it. Let's look at our best album covers.
And I'm just gonna say, it's funny you say you buy an album just for the cover. I have done that more than once. I have bought bands I didn't know anything about, and I'm like, that is an amazing cover. I'm buying that just because of that cover alone. It usually ends up pretty good, but sometimes I'm like, well, it's a good cover at least.
Yeah, I've done that too myself. We're gonna do our best and our worst album covers in our collection. So stay tuned for the honors and horrors.
Exactly. Because there's some pretty bad ones in this list, but
it's also subjective. And for everything that I think, especially when we start getting into albums that we think don't look good, that's a very subjective thing. And so if you are watching this and saying, I like that album cover, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. These are our own opinions and feelings on it, based on whatever we feel. I'm going to start with my number 3, Damien Jurado, Visions of Us on the Land. It is a weird album cover that makes sense and unlocks its secrets, as it were, as you listen to the album and start to understand what the themes, the lyrics, the songs, and all that are. You're like, why is there a person coming out of the stone? Why is there a walrus? Why are there spaceships? What happened to that car?
I lost my mind to a step down for a time. We would walk on a long road to unwind. I met myself there, saying go home.
Now on this side, what's with
going
the
on here?
angel thing, and who are those couple, and what is going on in this really kind of intense, wide album cover scene?
Ooh,
that
when
is
you
a beautiful
open it up,
watercolor
yeah.
painting as well. And this is a wonderful release by Sub Pop of an album that is intensely creative, somewhat folky, but also unpredictably psychedelic from Damien Jurado. He did a couple of albums that really kind of delve into the trippier stuff. This and the
Okay.
follow-up to this in particular. But this album is an amazing, amazing piece of work. And this album cover, like I say, you can just get lost in it. And the more you know and the more you love the album, the more you love the cover.
That is a cool looking cover for sure, especially when you opened it up and I got to see the full whole album cover. I'm like, okay, I can see why that was your pick for one of your best for sure.
So
Like I say, yeah,
let's contrast that with what is my number 3 worst. I'm sorry, Tiny Tim, but oh my God, what is going on
Yeah.
with this album cover? Which is an album that even Tiny Tim himself has somewhat written off. But look at the back on this. On top of that, there's just not really a moment, including listening to it, that isn't slightly disturbing and horrific.
If I didn't care more than words can say, if I didn't care, oh, what I feel this way.
And it's just something. What is going
the
on?
stuff of nightmares is what that is. It's the only way to describe that. Holy crap, what is that? So my number 3 best, in my opinion, is going to be the D&D Spelljammer. This is Spelljams. It's pretty much just a soundtrack that you play when you're playing through the D&D Spelljammer setting. It's like kind of spacey. It's got one of the Spelljam ships there, but you open it up and it's like a triple fold actually.
Oh,
So it's like the whole,
a triple fold.
the whole-
really?
yeah. And then you
Oh,
got
wow,
the
yeah.
inside as well. It's just,
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
gosh.
it's just like, it's just amazing all around. So, yeah. So
It-
I think that is an amazing looking album cover.
That's so gorgeous. To talk about a piece to really showcase in your collection and look at.
Oh,
and-
yeah, like
and
I
do
would
stuff with,
almost hang that on the wall, actually.
Yeah.
That's like, like in the game room or whatever, and then the vinyl was colored, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely
that
beautiful.
came out last year. It's D&D Spelljam. So that is my number 3 best. And then, of course, we're contracting that with the worst. And it is going to be, we talked about him before. Jim Steinman actually came out with an album of his own. I just don't get this like romance book cover.
The sea is whipping the sky. The sky is whipping the sea. You can hide away forever from the storm, but you'll never hide away from me.
There's some chiseled abs and heaving bosoms happening, that's for sure.
Right.
So.
Like, this is like subjective, as we said, but I'm just like, I just don't get this cover at all. It's just like, why? Like, I'm not reading a romance novel here. I'm like, I don't know.
Also,
then again,
are his arms attached to those wings? Because that would be super impractical and really hard to do anything with. Or are they separate?
yeah, no, they're actually attached.
Okay. Honestly, my number 2 is a little on the cheesy side as well, but I love it. And I've already talked about this record, so I'm not going to belabor the point too much. But my number 2 personal favorite, is certainly Europe Wings of Tomorrow, which ever since I saw it as a little kid, and I was like, ooh, Armored Space Hawk on this cool high contrast cover, great looking logo, and then also on the back you got that weird fantasy thing, which... you know, the band members on these kind of glowing birds heading to some planet. And the thing I really love about Wings of Tomorrow is this cover sounds like this album.
That is true. It does. That is such a good cover.
It is. And I've got lucky when I finally found an original copy of this, and the cover was in great shape. But this is one of those that I would have paid up for if I had to. So
I have been trying to find that, and I can't find a good enough copy of it. Like, all the copies I'm finding of it are beat up. Like, either the cover is totally beat up, which I guess I could live with, but just since that cover is so good, I want a decent cover, or the vinyl is just trashed on it. So I'm just like, I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, but that's one that I definitely want.
I had no problem, however, paying I can't see it on the light, a mere $5 for what the internet tends to agree, one of the worst vinyl album covers of all time, and that is Chick Corea's The Leprechaun. There is something going on with he doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. And it doesn't really get better on the other side either. Why is he wearing this weird hat and stuff like that? And what's going on?
What is happening?
Yeah, and I love Chick Corea. I mean, he's one of the most incredible musicians of all time. He's one of my personal favorites. And I do appreciate that this is like a textured album cover as well. So I don't entirely hate it, but the internet tends to often put it on towards the top of the worst album covers of all time list.
I can see why.
And I can see why. And also, sadly, it's probably one of his worst albums. That's not to say it's bad. It's just really not great either.
I gotta say, you have much worse album covers than I do, I think. Because, I mean, I got some bad ones, but you're like, okay, you win if this is a contest.
For me, I had to seek that out because I saw the old internet lists of worst album covers. I was often on there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm a Chick Corea fan, so I was like, well, I'll keep an eye out for that one for sure. So, you know.
I love watching, like, especially on YouTube when people do videos like this. I'm just like, oh my God, what were they thinking? So, what were they thinking, at least in a good way, for my number 2, which I almost put this at number 1, which then again, if I would go back and change these, my number 1 and number 2, I would switch, but I'm going to take the plastic off of this so you can see it better. This is Smashing Pumpkins' Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. And this is the box set that came out a couple years ago, the repress on it, which is very hard to find. But kind of like your pick before, there's just so much going on in this album cover. Mm-hmm. I mean, just like the more you look at it, the more you're like, okay, like what's that? What's going on? But that's it.
It's always struck
And
me as
then-
a very unique album cover too. It stands out
Yeah.
among whatever it's up against. People are your eye is drawn to it really nicely.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, and then vinyls
Ooh.
themselves,
Oh, my
they have
gosh.
like each vinyl themselves have just again so much going on with
Oh
them.
my gosh! Hey, you can't do the show without putting all those on there. You just go ahead and drop each one
Okay.
of those that covers up. That's incredible looking.
They're kind of hard to get out of the
Oh, are they?
box, but there's the other one. That's all right. It's just kind of hard to balance the box, and that's my favorite one, I think, out of all the album covers. And I'm not sure why. I've just always been drawn to that. It's just like that. Just everything about that is just amazing. And then the final one.
Us regular folks aren't ever seeing that box set, so this is
Yeah,
your chance,
no.
man. Yeah.
It's crazy expensive now. Like I said, and then there's a book that came with it as well. Yeah, I was lucky enough to get this when it came out. I had pre-ordered it. So yeah, if you want it now, you're talking I'm pretty sure it's 3 digits. Like upper 3s to 4s, I think. So
I
yeah.
think so.
Rumor has it that's going to get repressed though.
The whole box
I
set?
guess, yeah. I've been hearing rumors of that for a while, so we'll see. So then to back that up with my number 2 worst cover, then again, subjective, but this is a band I love, but a band I venture to guess nobody in our listening audience is even going to know who this band is. If they do, let me know in the comments that you actually know who this band is. This is a band called Polka Dot Cadaver. The album is called Last Call in Jonestown. I just don't get this album cover. Like,
It feels in bad taste to me.
Yeah, I get that. That's part of it. And then I'm like, okay, I could see just putting the Jim Jones picture if you're going to use that, but why have it like this green, yellow, blue, weird, like it's out of focus? Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. But press is on a really pretty yellow though. But yeah, and they're a avant-garde metal. I guess metal is the best way to describe them. They kind of go across all genres. They're interesting. They're an interesting band. They're an offshoot of another band, which was an offshoot of another band. It's like basically they're like the same band. They're the same people. There's like 3 people that are in like all these different bands, and Polka Dot Cadaver was an offshoot of one of the other. But yeah, Last Call in Jonestown, Polka Dot Cadaver, my number 2 worst album cover.
My number 1 favorite album cover of all time is a personal pick, but I think you'll agree this is one heck of a package, and that is my Namco Museum Arcade Greatest Hits.
Yeah.
I still have it in its shrink wrap here, and I'll show you why here in just a second. But what's interesting about this is among the reasons, is this comes out, and then it has a backing of Dig Dug.
That
Or
looks so amazing.
the record itself could be Pac-Man or Galaga.
I
And
love
then
how
it
they did
comes-
that.
It's amazing. Or you can do Mappy, or you could theoretically do Split.
Right.
And it's got a lovely book that goes into all these games with all the original art and covers and details. And the record itself is really interesting as well because it is pure capture of these old arcade cabinet sounds, minus really some of the gameplay, or in the case where they do capture gameplay in a way that is specifically meant to complement the soundtrack that's going on to it. And so
Okay,
you'll
okay.
get, if you want a pure, what did the original arcade Pac-Man machine sound like? This will get it to you. Same with Galaga,
Nice.
another one, that weird kind of phased out
Right.
Galaga sound. you can hear that on this. And then as you see that they've attempted to try to do a Pac-Man looking record to Pac-Man's got some dental issues, but he's doing okay. He's old, man. He's old.
Is that actually cut, or is it just like gray like that?
It's clear
like
vinyl.
The vinyl's gray, and then they got the
Yeah, the vinyl itself is clear minus the kind of yellow splotch. So
I didn't know, because I do know they sometimes attempt to do like cut vinyl, because I've seen some vinyls that are like cut.
Yeah,
I haven't been brave enough to actually buy one and try to play one though, but I just wasn't sure if that was it or that's such a pretty record though.
And it's a really interesting cultural artifact for me to have in my collection, because I love being able to hear like the Splatterhouse soundtrack and things like that in its original pure high quality audio.
Oh, yeah.
It's really neat. It's a really neat experience. Also an experience, I don't know, really neat is how I would describe it, is my number one, which is Herbie Man, Push Push, another one of those that kind of makes the rounds of the internet. On the one hand, I really appreciate Herbie Man for being willing to, put himself out there. But he's putting himself out there, man. I am
he's
so
really
glad.
himself out there.
I am so glad this vinyls never came in long boxes. That's all I gotta say. So, and he even has like some velvet here, where for the name, and you can't see it too well, but the velvet is people in copulae.
Oh yeah, you can kind of sort of.
And then on the back here, you've got a second take, just in case you hadn't had enough. You've got multiple options here. And even look at the embryo label itself with that psychedelic kind of look to it.
I was almost scared to ask what the center label looked like.
No,
I was like,
the music is actually not so bad. The music is pretty classic Herbie Man. It's a little bit for those who have grown up with like Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery movies. It fits a little bit into that kind of 60s era jazz and things like that. So a little bit commercial, a little schmaltzy, a little kind of goofy sounding, but also with a very high quality of instrumentation and musicianship, and the members of the band are super good, and a classic jazz fusion album in its own right.
Like one of those instances where the album cover does not match the music
here's the thing, though.
At all.
Here's the thing, though. It kind of does. It basically does, in fact. Actually, it's a perfect complement to the music inside.
My number one, like I said, I almost should have swapped my 2 and 1, but this is a really cool cover. This is by a band called Dungeon Crawl, and the album is called Maze Controller. This is thrash metal set to D&D. All of their albums are D&D based and RPG based, and that's a really pretty like green.
Yeah, it's a beautiful looking record. It really is.
Yeah, but I mean this has so much going on it, and then I just love the face they gave the Dungeon Maze Controller. Is just like if you just stare at that, you're just like, okay, I see it. That's great. And then like the lighting effect. So I just love this album.
It's a very metal cover, but it's a wonderful metal cover, and I love the maze look on the planet. It is super cool.
Yep,
for sure.
Yep, yeah, it is. So there's my number one. Like I said, that's a weird. If you ever wanted thrash music set to stories about D&D. There's your band. Look them up.
I didn't until now. Now I do. I totally do. I'm looking forward to hearing the clip on this.
Like who knew we needed that, right? But here we are. And then my number one on my worst album covers. We talked about him before. It's Meatloaf.
Every day I'm out to see the same old thing. Hey boy, oh boy, you better wait for your turn.
Again, like, did I need a romance novel on my album cover? I guess, sort of, kind of. But
thing that bothers me most about Meatloaf's album covers isn't that they're bad, because in many ways they're classic fantasy art and things like that.
right, like
And
like
you could
the
say Bad Out of Hell
album
could be
cover's
a top,
amazing.
it's
Right.
a top album cover for sure.
Oh yeah, oh
it's
easily,
that
yeah.
to me they never fit the music. The album covers of Meatloaf's albums don't sound anything like the music you get inside, including Bad Out of Hell. When I saw Bad Out of Hell as a teenager or whatever, I was like, I cannot imagine what this album sounds like. And then I
Right.
listened to it and I was like, what? It doesn't sound like this.
Meatloaf is my number one worst album cover in my collection, at least.
I would love to hear what people think in the comments. If you do
Yeah,
want
I
to post
can't-
a link to an image of your worst album covers in the comments, go for it.
So we talk about a lot of music and we talk about a lot of music formats. One thing we haven't really talked much about on the show yet is cassettes.
Cassettes
I
have
know
gotten big. We did have that segment about how kids are buying cassettes again for whatever
We have,
reason.
yep. We talked about Walkmans a little bit, but we haven't really talked about our cassette collection. And I know we both have a collection. Like, it's not a huge collection, but I mean, we both have. So we decided we come up with our top 3 favorite cassettes that we own.
At one point, I had a wall of cassettes. Really, basically, pretty much.
Oh yeah,
And these days, I have a box of cassettes. A couple of boxes. One box of just dubbed stuff, tape stuff, live stuff, local stuff, my own stuff. One box of
Right.
commercial grade tapes, and then another smaller box of commercial grade tapes. But a lot of my tapes, I wore them out. They don't last forever. Cassettes don't
no,
last
they
forever.
don't. Yeah, that's kind of the hard thing about buying used, because I tend to, when I'm in record stores, I'll look at cassettes and I'm like, I just don't know what this is gonna sound like. I mean, the tape looks like it's in good shape, but I'm like, what's this gonna sound? Then I get home and it sounds horrible. But it's cassettes are more of a collector thing for me more than I mean, I do listen to cassettes from time to time, but I think, to be honest, it's more of just I like collecting music, so I collect the cassettes just for what they are.
Cassettes
But,
were fun. They were portable, and in an era
Yep.
before MP3s and everything, they were the way to go, because it was really nice as a student or whatever, going to and from school and everything. They were great. Cassettes are awesome, and they opened up the world of self-recording and DIY recording in a way that didn't exist prior, in a way that changed the world.
Very true.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So go cassettes, go cassettes, and we're even bringing out some of our OGs here. Let me start
We
off
are.
with the number 3 here. I have an OG of Dead Milkmen, Beelzebubba. This is one of those cool wraparound cassettes that would go in the
Which
case.
you didn't see very
wraparound.
much,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, I've got a couple of them on this one, but Beelzebubba is the Dead Milkmen at maybe their most commercial. It was a big hit because of Punk Rock Girl, but it's a fun album that really demonstrates the kind of irreverency, tongue-in-cheek writing, punk rock nature, willingness to kind of be a little rude on purpose for fun of the Dead Milkmen. That really is the core of what they are.
We're going to a bed party. It's the worst party that's ever been. God, I really hate these jokers. They think they're smart, think they're witty. Someone ought to pass a law, or at least from our committee. We're gonna shoot stereo. They don't stop playing my kind of music.
That's my favorite Dead Milkmen album, actually, is that one. That's they just I don't know. That's just one of those bands I couldn't get into, but for some reason I really, really liked that particular album.
I'm a Dead Milkman fan, so
My number 3, an OG, it's Pearl Jam 10. Everybody in the audience is like, what? He's showing a Pearl Jam something? I can't believe that. Yeah, well, get used to it because I'm going to talk about Pearl Jam a lot. They're my favorite band, but yeah, this is an OG 10. It's not my OG. It's not the actual one that I bought when it came out, but this is an original. I don't know what happened to my original at this point, but
it's a wraparound too.
it is. Yep, I just noticed that actually. It's
Yeah.
funny that you said that, but yeah. So there you go, Pearl Jam 10.
My number 2 is an indie find, Sebadoh the Freedman. This was by Homestead Records. This is pretty hard to get these days. You know, these kind of things are collectors for Sebadoh fans. And this is an original, and it's really a acoustic and tape recordings that Lou Barlow and Eric Gaffney did together prior to releasing their big more commercial album with 3. So this is just like song snippets. No song is more than maybe a couple minutes long. It's got weird soundscapes and collages and tape mixes and things like that. And it's really the bridge between Dinosaur Jr. and Sebadoh, the wider group, which came about a little bit later. I'm lucky that I got to meet Lou Barlow and get this signed in 2006. So I also love this cassette because I can't get it on camera, but it's signed by him.
There you go. Yep. Nice. So my number 2 is going to be from 88. This is not an OG, but this is an 88 repress, I guess. I don't know how you say that for tapes, but this is Metallica Kill 'Em All. This is in particular the 88 Elektra version. This sounds absolutely amazing. This is the original case. It's which Cassettes did this. They really hyped this digi analog. So it's straight from the analog. They went straight to the analog to a DAT and then to the cassettes. So I think in part that's why this sounds so amazing. But yeah, this is easily one of my favorite cassettes that I own.
Speaking of the greatest albums, debut albums, that's got to be up there.
I agree. So yeah, Metallica, Kill 'Em All. Specifically this 88 Elektra release. I would love to get like an actual OG of this, but those are, believe it or not, even on cassette, that is really expensive to get the Metal Force version.
I think these days having a 1988 cassette counts enough as OG.
Sure.
It's the honestly, to be real though, that's the version most of us bought back in the day, because that was the
and
one
that
was
actually
available.
this actually is my one that I actually purchased myself back in '88. So yeah, so Metallica Kill 'Em All.
My number 1 is one of the best albums from Iron Maiden, and it is one of the best sounding cassettes in my collection. Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time. It's got the cool full album cover. It's the wraparound version of it. But in particular, the thing that's interesting about this one is this is what I grew up... This is the version of Somewhere in Time I listened to most back in the day. And when I've been looking for vinyl records and CDs of this since then, I have been like, why doesn't it sound as good? And I think the reason it doesn't sound as good is because I'm used to hearing this expanded Dolby Range edition on cassette, which good, of course, is subjective, but it sounds unique on this cassette, and in my opinion, among the best sounding versions of this album because of its wider, deeper, thicker sound.
That's the thing. A lot of people say, "Oh, cassettes sound like crap." That's not necessarily true. If you get a good quality like this, that Metallica sounds amazing. If you get a good quality chrome cassette that they didn't cheap out and didn't use a cheap cassette, and they did all of the Dolby stuff on it, cassettes can sound amazing. Even now, I can throw this Metallica in, and I'm just like, holy crap, this sounds good. My number one going to be Body Count and the debut album. If you're not familiar with Body Count, this is Ice-T. He is doing metal. I guess I didn't know until this came out, but Ice-T has always been a big metal guy. So he got together with some people, and he's
not just some people though, some real good people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, and then this is the OG press of this, so it does have the I won't say the name in case we get delisted or anything. It's the controversial song is on here.
Tonight we get even.
This is an original OG that actually has that song on there. The album got pulled, and then it was re-released with that song taken off, and they put a song on there called "Freedom of Speech," which was Ice-T and Jello Biafra.
Yeah.
Biafra. Thank you. Yeah.
Are you saying that your version doesn't have the cop song on
it? It does. Okay. This is the OG with that.
Okay.
Yeah. They recalled this album, and that is no longer like if you buy this now and you don't get an OG of it, which I get you could. I don't know when's the last time it's been. Probably not on cassette, but if you're looking for it, you got to be careful because you might get the version without it. If you actually want the original that has the cop song on it, you gotta make sure that it has it on it. And this is actually. And this, I think, kind of partly why this is number one is back when I was in radio, the record company actually sent this to me. They didn't really send cassettes out too much, but with this, they sent me the CD and the cassette, which they didn't do that a lot. There was a couple bands that they did do that with, but back when, like I said, back when I was a music director on the radio station I was on, they would send stuff, and that's so this one kind of is special to me just because of that, because it's like my OG, plus it has the cop song on it, plus it was, like it doesn't say like promo on it or whatever, but technically to me this is like a promo copy, because the record company sent it to me. It doesn't actually say, normally they would say promo copy on them, but so,
all right.
Metallica.
So, Metallica here. We have got two of the exact same cassette in our collection. And so we thought we would end the show by doing something kind of dumb with it. And that is we're going to go into a race. You have a cassette deck. I have a cassette deck. And we have the exact same pressing of the same cassette. So let's do a fast forward or rewind, your choice, race of either side A, side B, doesn't matter. Side 1, side 2 for this, because it's the same length regardless. Right. And we're going to actually time this, and the winner does not have to buy something. The loser does have to buy something. Not something expensive. We basically kept this to an under $10 thing by making the record no more than $3 plus shipping off Discogs. And you could find plenty of cheap records off Discogs. So
yeah, I was actually surprised.
Oh, yeah. No, I do it all the time. But, yeah. If I win, you have to purchase for your collection Rappin' Rodney, which is Rodney Dangerfield's rap album from the 80s that is truly terrible.
What's the matter, Rodney?
Ah, Death, where is thy sting?
It's just Rappin' Rodney. Ain't wrapped your tight, no, Rappin' Rodney. Get out of sight, it's just Rappin' Rodney. Make no mistake, poor old Rappin' Rodney can't get a break.
truly terrible.
God help me.
But certainly a great addition as a cultural artifact, at least, to your
Oh,
collection.
of course. And then if I win, you will purchase the album that probably will be the crown jewel of your collection, The Brady Bunch Meet the Bradys.
I believe in love and music. I believe in you. Money and fame is a game for losers. All I need is you.
I love your pick, by the way. This is such a good pick. It is so right in character with what I was hoping we would do with this, and I actually would love to own this Brady Bunch record in some ways, because I think it's going to be truly terrible, and hopefully in bad shape as well, and that's going to be great.
I found that on Discogs. It was, I think, $3.20 or something like that. So yeah.
All right.
So
we're going to load up our video sources here, and I actually have my cassette deck on camera. You're probably just going to have to take your webcam and do this, but ultimately hit play on the cassette, or hit fast forward or rewind on the cassette first, so that we can time this roughly together. And the goal is going to be, I'll do like 3, 2, 1, go, and then on go, we will hit whatever fast forward or rewind method you're choosing to do for this cassette. And we'll see who gets to the end first. It should auto-stop. Sometimes my cassette deck doesn't auto-stop anymore. But it, for the most part, auto-stops. That Marantz is a real nice tape deck. So.
I have a Marantz, and it's one of the Marantz CD and cassette combos.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, let me move my mic so you can actually hear me. There we go. Yeah. This is a pretty nice deck.
It is.
It's
a very nice deck. I love Marantz. All right, so we're going to remember 3, 2, 1, go, and then on go you will hit the button of choice.
So
Some tape decks are faster on the rewind or fast forward, which is why I wanted to leave open the option. After all these years, whatever built is the fastest. But when I tested it myself, it seemed to be about the same, so I don't really care.
Yeah, mine's pretty close. I guess I didn't actually test it, but I think mine's pretty close.
Yeah.
All right.
So are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, let's do 3, 2, 1, go. You have the nice digital readout.
Yeah, I
wasn't.
wasn't.
Mine's the old analog flippy number thing, which is kind of cool in its own right. But I guess while we're waiting, we could mention that Kill 'Em All really is an amazing album from Metallica, and something that makes sense on cassette over vinyl, in part because it's a super long album. And so trying to fit this on any kind of two-sided consumer package has never really been... was it ever on... Was the original on two sides? I don't even know. I don't know my vinyl history of Kill 'Em All.
I don't think so. I think it was only ever a single. I would have to double-check that.
But it was basically a cassette and CD for a lot of us.
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm almost there. I'm almost at the end. I know. I got just a...
Done.
Oh, you beat me.
Yep.
Oh, yep. I just now finished.
Yeah! All right. Well, enjoy your Rappin' Rodney record track.
Oh, I will. I will order that today. I can't wait.
Also, thank you, everybody, for watching episode 5 of the Record Players Podcast. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, both long-form videos, short-form horizontal videos, and things like YouTube Shorts, vertical videos on TikTok. However you're watching us, we really appreciate you giving us a like, a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe to us on YouTube, that'd be a wonderful way to support us. Any final thoughts you want to say here, Jack?
I can't wait to hear this Rappin' Rodney.